for today, the 4th of February 2025, and we are coming to you from the head office of the IDA in Scarborough, Tobago. I am Kate Trotman, and today I am joined by the political leader of the IDA, Dr. Denise Sawyerfat Angus. Now today we will be zeroing in on the following matters. Matters concerning the poor leadership and management skills of this current THA administration, which we saw on full display at the most recent plenary sittings. We will also touch on the need for the minority leader to do much better, and as we would say in Palan's term, stop rushing the brush just to bust a mark first without doing your due diligence. And finally, we will address the incompetence of the entire legislature that was confirmed by the recent debate on the security motion in the House. So let's start by looking at the poor leadership and management skills of this administration. Tobago currently stands at a crossroads. The recent 37th plenary sittings of the Tobago House of Assembly has laid bare before us an undeniable reality. That is, Tobago, we have a governance crisis. This administration, entrusted with the responsibility of guiding Tobago forward, has instead demonstrated a dangerous lack of leadership, managerial oversight, and accountability. I dare say many of those who are in charge have no idea, it seems, and no clue of what is happening under their own watch. And what we saw on display at the recent plenary sittings, secretaries from various divisions repeatedly failing to exercise managerial oversight, leaving agencies under their purview, operating like rudderless ship on rough waters, and taking no responsibility for this grave situation. From tourism to healthcare, multi-million-dollar decisions are being made without transparency, oversight, and justification. This situation should concern every Tobagonian. For when leaders fail to govern responsibly, people suffer. And most of us can attest to this situation. The shocking revelations from this recent THA sitting does paint a troubling picture. Let's look at the Tobago Rhythm and Soul Festival. This is a $9.38 million event, supposedly to be managed through a public-private partnership between the Tobago Festivals Commission and a private partner. Yet when asked, the Tourism Secretary admits she does not know the identity of this private partner. Now, while the Secretary's admission in itself is alarming, and this is compounded by her deflection, stating that this information was not requested on the order paper, what is even of graver concern is what this, her lack of knowledge of who the partner is, what that seems to represent. It seems to indicate that there are no oversight or reporting mechanisms, because that is basic information she should know. And if there are reporting mechanisms in place, by her own admission of not knowing, seems to declare her incompetence in the area. And how can taxpayers trust if any money is being spent wisely under those circumstances when basic things you do not know? Let's look at the $16.6 million ambulance acquisition debacle. 12 ambulances, procured under what some may call questionable circumstances, requiring modification upon arrival to meet local compliance. The Health Secretary, when pressed, admitted she had no knowledge of whether procurement protocols were followed. Now, I want us to let that sink in for a moment. How can a leader entrusted with Tobago's healthcare system not ensure compliance with the laws? Hiding behind claims that she was not directly involved in the procurement process is disingenuous at best. No one expects the Secretary to be involved directly and intimately in the procurement process. We do, however, expect her to be aware of whether procurement processes were complied with. The Secretary also indicated that she was unaware whether the foreign firm conducting the Roxborough facility report was compliant with local procurement protocols, again citing that she was not directly involved in the process. But let us ask some questions. Doesn't she have oversight of the TRHA and the hospital? Aren't there regular meetings that keeps her abreast and in the loop? By all her admissions, it seems as if she's not in the know of what is happening under her own watch. Procurement protocols exist to prevent corruption, waste, and inefficiencies. The Secretary's lack of information suggests a serious breakdown in accountability. The shocking admissions by not one, but two secretaries raises critical concerns. Concerns about a lack of transparency. For how can the administration justify significant financial investments without clear and full disclosure? It also raises concerns of the failure of oversight. These secretaries' lack of knowledge seem to signal a hands-off approach to governance, where taxpayers' dollars are spent without proper scrutiny. For all intents and purposes, one could say that the 37th sitting of the Tobago House of Assembly presented a masterclass in bureaucratic incompetence. Secretaries could not provide answers to basic questions. It appears that projects were being managed with the precision of a broken compass with no direction, that the public funds were being spent like monopoly money, having no value. If this administration keeps this up, I want to say that they don't need any opposition. They are doing a great job at opposing themselves. The culture of deflection displayed by this administration, with secretaries consistently dodging questions, is not governance. It is not a demonstration of leadership, nor managerial prowess. It is just pure and simple evasion. Consistently hiding behind procedural technicalities, like the question is not on the order paper, is either a cover to conceal wrongdoing or flagrant incompetency. It is clear evasion is not just a strategy of this administration. It is their modus operandi, one that lends itself to opaque decision-making that continues to keep the public in the dark about major financial decisions. It lends itself to weak oversight that allows state entities to operate without accountability, leading to reckless spending. And it lends itself to misuse of public funds that deprives the citizens of essential services and opportunity for development. The idea is therefore calling on this administration to stop hiding behind procedural technicalities and truly govern in the best interests of Tobago and Tobagonians. We are also calling on every Tobagonian to join us in demanding full transparency on all government contracts and financial allocations, strengthened oversight mechanisms for all state boards and agencies, and immediate procurement audits to eliminate corruption and waste. I know we are in an election season, and we must not allow incompetence nor mismanagement to direct Tobago's future. It is time for the governance that we practice to be transparent, accountable, and focused on the people. It is important for us to note that the issues exposed during the recent sittings are failures that are symptoms of a deeper issue, the issue of our broken governance structure. And that is why the IDA firmly believes that Tobago deserves a system of governance that prioritizes people over politics, one rooted in transparency, accountability, and the strategic resource allocation that can ensure our sustainable development. And that is why we have been championing constitutional reform, a reform that is built on participatory democracy and empowers community, truly giving voice and avenue to the people to weigh in on the actions and performance of their representatives and leaders. A reform that ensures community rights are recognized and enshrined in the Constitution. Tobago must move beyond reactionary politics and towards a future where governance is indeed driven by strategic vision and people-centered policies. We are now at a juncture where we need to reimagine, redesign, and rebuild our governance model and come up with a model that truly serves people. This is something we can do together and that we must do together. The idea is therefore calling on Tobago's citizens to demand answers from our representatives and hold them accountable for their actions. Now is not the time to hide behind partisan politics, despite the fact that we are in a political season. Partisan politics has not worked and is not working for us as an island, nor for us as a nation. In Tobago, we cannot continue this path of reckless governance and financial mismanagement. Our island's future depends on strong, responsible leadership that upholds the highest standards of accountability. The people of Tobago, we must stand and demand better governance, because every dollar wasted is a dollar stolen from our future. Tobago's best interest is at stake, and therefore, every citizen must carefully consider the messages that political parties are asking you to vote for and support. The time of silence is over. We must make our voices rumble. Thank you for listening. I am open to any questions you may have.
And you mentioned that it's a partnership, a public-private partnership. However, what the CEO of the Tobago Festivals Commission indicated, it's not a matter where it's a promoter that is partnering with them to say to host events. What this company is doing is really assisting with the booking of bourgeois in particular. Everything else is being managed by the commission. What does the idea have to say about this arrangement that they have put in place?
Didn't they say that the THA would no longer be leading initiatives like this? Is this a change from the policy? I mean, that's the reason they indicated that the Tobago Jazz Festival was not going to get the support of the THA. So what is this? I am asking then, and I'm asking Tobagonians to ask, because it seems as if the state is taking the lead and spending taxpayers' money. But that is not what the secretary told us. Huh? That is not what was stated in the thing. So that is why I say we need to ask our leaders the question. Let them be straight with us. And if it is that it is the THA leading this through the Festival Commission, have they considered the impact on the communities that will be affected, because this is going to be held during Easter, an already crowded period, and a period where local events are happening? Are we now, let me use some words, cannibalizing, mashing up things, community activities that exist and are meant to generate income that those communities can use to deal with activities in their space? Question we need to ask the THA.
A similar question was asked as it relates to the views that were highlighted prior, that they are moving away from the model of the THA hosting within private organization. That was also raised to the CEO, which he also mentioned it's not a replacement of the Jazz Festival. It's a new event, it's a new model that they are now trying to jumpstart, as it were, and then we plan in the future to utilize a public-private partnership arrangement.
I am yet to see what newness in the model it is. I don't see a particular newness. So I guess they have to explain to the public in more clear terms how this is new. Any other questions?
So you believe that this awareness festival, the timing is not suitable?
It's not suitable. Really not suitable. And I wonder if there were any true engagement with the other stakeholders, the local stakeholders that they would impact. Because when those stakeholders are impacted negatively, and they now go, as some people will say, cap in hand to the THA for assistance, they get a different response when it is the THA that put them in that position in the first place. Okay. I would now give way to Dr. Denise Sawyer-Angus to deal with the other issues. Dr. Angus.
Thank you, Ms. Trotman, for that comprehensive delivery on the governance or absence of governance in this administration. And just to build on your question regarding this Rhythm and Steel, Rhythm and Soul Buju Banton event, that is all we are seeing. We have a carnival, a national carnival that is going on right now. And in Tobago, you have heard nothing about the carnival. It's almost as if they are trying to kill off the carnival during this period to have something in October. If that is the case, come out and say it. Don't have your stakeholders planning for something. You are not advertising anything. We can't see a calendar yet out. None of the stakeholders know of any money coming to them yet. You know, what is it? You know, this is the third year, going into the fourth year, and we are still doing the same thing. That cannot continue. I must commend the Calypsonians. I know Tuco had their tent launch, and Bacchanal Calypso tent had another event in the library. Fantastic. Both of them would report not a penny they have gotten to put on those events. But I commend them. I commend the performers, that it is a lover of the arts, that they came out and gave of their best to the people to make us feel like we're in a carnival period. The Pan people who went down to Trinidad, well, thank God Trinidad provides a forum for them to go and compete in. And they too, we must commend them for how well they distinguished themselves, you know, on the national landscape, making Tobago proud. Congratulations to all of them, and shame on you, the Tobago House of Assembly, for not coming out and beginning to support your own. So I move on to the next topic, which is one that we all need to be concerned about, because Tobago is in crisis. A crisis that was foreseen, and one that could have been minimized, if the current THA will not be as dismissive as they are, as ignorant and also arrogant, which is a lethal combination to the people. It was in February of 2024 when the administration brought a motion and was supported by the whole House to come up with this Tobago Security Committee. We were at 3 deaths at that time. And I remember sitting and listening to all of that, and came to a press conference in early March denouncing what they would have done as illegal and toothless. And feeling as if, well, we can't do anything about it except maybe write to the Prime Minister on behalf of the people of Tobago, because certainly the current Chief Secretary felt that he didn't need to speak to a Prime Minister, that he could just go into the legislature, come up with this, and feel as if he could actually do something in Tobago with that. And I want to actually read what we would have written on March 8th to the Prime Minister then. And incidentally, we actually copied it to the Chief Secretary, the Minister of National Security, the Deputy Chief Secretary, the Minority Leader, and also the representative for Roxborough Argyll. I got a response from the Prime Minister's Secretary saying that she received it and she will pass it on. I got a response from the representative for Roxborough, Argyll, and Delaford, who said he received it, and I got nothing from the Chief Secretary, nor the Deputy, nor the Minority Leader. And all we got was ridicule on a public platform up in Speyside for writing this letter. But I want to read excerpts from the letter. I was sent to the Prime Minister. As you are well aware, the scourge of transnational crime, fueled primarily by the illicit drug trade, the illicit trade of drugs and firearms, continues to plague our nation, pushing Trinidad and Tobago's crime rate to a staggering 30% above the international average. Of particular concern is Tobago's murder rate, which, based on current calculations, remember it was 3 in March, based on current projections, stands at a chilling 42 per 100,000 inhabitants. This statistics ranking Tobago second to only Jamaica and Ecuador in the entire Latin America and Caribbean region is nothing short of alarming for a small community of 60,000 people. Remember, we were at 3 murders when I wrote this letter with the projections. We projected that we would be at 42 per 100,000. The year ended in December at 43.3 per 100,000. Okay? And Trinidad was at 41.3. So that puts us second in line to Jamaica, which was 52.9 per 100,000. Okay? So just letting you see how far ahead we were in thought. The IDA notes that under the THA Act of 26, subsection 1, the Assembly shall not have responsibility for the matters set out in the 6th schedule, under which national security falls. However, the environment since the THA was created to now has changed significantly, and the increasing crime rates on the island of a transnational nature, the porous borders allowing dead bodies in a boat from Africa to reach our shores, as well as the recent massive oil spill from a barge which entered our shores without notice, all indicate that the sixth schedule of the current construct of the THA Act has failed this island. It is these incidences and more which have impacted the THA's responsibility to provide protection and security of assets under its control, namely fisheries, the environment, and its people and others, in accordance with Section 25(2) of the THA Act, while being constrained by 26(1) if taken by itself. Prime Minister, the IDA is acutely aware that very few scholars would disagree that there are many gray areas in the THA Act regarding the outlay of the responsibilities of the THA and the effective execution of its mandate. As such, it would be of paramount importance that these areas be reviewed in the Constitution and the Tobago Bill to address these ambiguities and looming complexities. Until such time, it is evident as to why those meetings with you and the Chief Secretary are critical for Tobago and overall in benefiting the country. Note that this was within a time when the Chief Secretary could have made recommendations on the Tobago bills, but chose not to do. The people of Tobago are well aware that you, as the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary, have not been holding meetings in accordance with the THA Act, Section 31, that mandates the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary shall hold regular discussions with a view to formulating administrative and legislative mechanisms for the promotion of harmony in the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. It is also pellucidly clear that the Chief Secretary will not be engaging you on such a critical issue to ensure implementable solutions are developed. And therefore, under these circumstances, the IDA writes on behalf of the people of Tobago to advocate for a meeting to find legal and workable solutions to address the complexities of crime and security in Tobago that not only benefit the people of Tobago, but the entire country. The IDA is of the firm view that according to the THA Act, the current approach manifested in the recent formation of a localized Tobago committee by the Tobago House of Assembly can be construed as illegal and falls woefully short in addressing the complex and multifaceted nature of transnational crime and unprotected borders. While commendable in its intent, this localized initiative lacks the requisite legal framework, sustainable funding, and strategic integration with the national security apparatus necessary to make a meaningful impact. I'm tempted to read that section again, but you all could rewind and get it. Given both Section 25(2) and 26(1), it is imperative to recognize Tobago cannot tackle this issue in isolation. The solution demands a collaborative effort between local and national stakeholders, with Tobago's voice rightfully represented at the highest decision-making, the National Security Council. Without Tobago's direct input and participation in these discussions, we risk exacerbating an already dire situation that threatens the safety and security of our citizens. Again, this was when 3 murders were done. This letter was written. It is for this reason the IDA advocates for Tobago to have its specific place on the national security agenda, and that a representative be chosen by the THA legislature to attend and ensure that the national security apparatus is extended to Tobago in a more cohesive approach. The idea is of the view that the current THA Act will allow for such a decision to be made and implemented through Section 26(2). That states the government or any statutory authority or state enterprise may, by way of a memorandum of understanding, authorize the Assembly to act as an agent of the government, statutory authority, or state enterprise, as the case may be, in respect of any of its responsibilities in Tobago. This section can be the means to provide the legal framework for Tobago to have a committee that effectively has the legal framework, collaboration, and resources, both human and capital, to execute on its mandate of protection and security of its assets. Of course, I made some recommendations on some other activities that should be done in prevention of crime. I wouldn't go through that. But I said in closing, let us not forget that the future of Tobago hangs in balance. Failure to act decisively now will not only jeopardize our island's reputation, but also compromise the well-being of future generations. The idea remains steadfast in its commitment to serving the best interests of all Tobagonians and stands ready to work tirelessly towards a safer, more secure future for our beloved island. Now, I don't mind that the Chief Secretary clearly read it, but decided, instead of taking some of the advice, went on a public platform to ridicule me. Okay? That was 3 murders then. A year later, 23 murders added to that. You're now coming to tell me about go in the House and pass a motion to do the same thing we told you to do a year ago. Okay? But added to that, I guess the Prime Minister read it too. But he waited until July, when we were at the 8th murder, to call a meeting in Tobago of the National Security Council and invite the Chief Secretary to the meeting. That was a good start, but it wasn't enough because it was a one-off. It was a one-off meeting. They needed to have regular meetings instituted. It was an impending crisis, 8 murders, and a one-off meeting that could not have worked. Right? Consistent engagement would have been the key to ensure that all of the arms are working together to alleviate this issue. And basically what we have is big egos of both Prime Minister and Chief Secretary that have crippled the Tobago security response. You know, this standoff between them has left Tobago suffering for far too long. But I guess that should be soon over on one side. Again, 1 year later, how many mothers we could have prevented from holding their belly and bawling? 23 mothers later, right? And you would not have had the Auditor General coming to caution you about how you're spending monies illegally on security when that is not under your purview. But he did not even have the good sense to know that he was telling the public that he was deceiving the Auditor General by telling the police persons or the police personnel, well, I can't pay for it for you, I can't go and audit, so all you go and check what all you want and bring me something that say you want me to donate the money. I mean, come on. That's intent to defraud the Auditor General. And you've actually come out as a confession in there and did it. The same way how you brought the witness to the legislature, not realizing that you were admitting to witness tampering. That's for another day. So, you know, what we have seen is an administration that continues to operate in silence, dismissal of any advice they're getting, and in arrogance. And I tell you, in all of that, they are operating in ignorance. You see, arrogance and ignorance, that is a lethal combination. And we have seen it. 23 murders on top of arrogance and ignorance. And you know, I remember when it was around the same time, we also spoke about the Chief Secretary calling a meeting with the Tobagonians and going back through the autonomy bill then. Again, silence, dismissal, arrogance, and ignorance. And what did we see? Last minute, you're now texting to the Parliament to tell them, hold up, don't pass nothing. We can't operate that way. How much longer are we going to take on this type of irresponsible leadership, trial and error governance? It cannot continue. And I hope Tobagonians are taking note, you know, okay? Because this trial and error governance cannot continue. We cannot be afforded the time. So many persons can't even put food on their plates, on their tables properly now, when they were able to do that some time ago. You go to the grocery store and the same money you're putting forward can't buy you half the amount of groceries that could have bought you some time before. Come on. We can't take this anymore. Where are we going to go? It's not getting any better anytime soon. And so, if this administration couldn't see beyond its nose, it took them 12 months. Remember what I was saying? The first one with the Tobago Security Committee was in February 2024. And in January 2025, they now move in a motion to do the same thing we told them to do way back then. It took you 12 months to learn that? Wow. So, you know, Tobago deserves leaders who are really proactive, who understand what it takes and the time of day, who are solution-focused, who will do the research and not just into political point scoring. And so, with that, I say to Tobagonians, let's not be fooled. Let's transcend the trial and error administration and begin to move forward, upward and forward, to ensure betterment for all. So any questions on that? No? Okay. So the idea has always called out issues of, you know, integrity, whether it be the current administration or even the minority bench. And today, I want to call out again the minority leader, because once again, he has triggered a public frenzy based on incomplete and inaccurate information. And his pattern of rushing the brush for political expediency, rather than prioritizing factual accuracy, is not only irresponsible, but also damaging to the people of Tobago who work in those various departments that he ends up accusing. I don't know if you all would recall a few days ago, maybe a week ago or so, that the minority held an entire press conference to call the Secretary of Tourism a liar and demand her resignation over an issue regarding her response to his question posed in the legislature. However, with our research, we have found that that was misinformation. That the secretary, when she put out the press release stating that she had sent the information to the legislature, she indeed had emailed the information. However, there were problems with the email bouncing back. They then decided to walk the email over to the legislature so they will have a physical copy. And so it was not a case of withholding information, but rather an administrative delay. But again, the minority did not do sufficient research, or perhaps wait a little extra time to see what it is, but did a whole press conference to call her a liar. Now, I hold no brief for, this current administration. We have called them incompetent time and time again, and our position on their failures have not changed. But we will not condone wrongful accusations, misleading the public, or using incomplete research to damage the reputations of hard-working Tobagonians. But we know that this is not the first time the minority leader has done this. On December 20th, 2024, he created public outrage over what he claimed to be, and he held up papers of an overpayment scandal within the TRHA. Again, he called a press conference to deal with that, and it was widely disseminated by his people on the internet about how much was the cost of onions, garlic, and coffee, some $7,000 for a 50-pound bag, issues like that. And what is it? Nothing no go so. The idea determined that with the evidence, that the so-called evidence was actually an internal memo that was generated by a computer glitch. That information never made it to the final payment stop of the TRHA to pay out those obscene types of monies. Again, did the minority leader do his research then? We called on him to make apologies to the hard-working staff in health, because you are now blemishing them. No secretary or board could sign a check. The chairman could, but that is in the absence of the other members of staff. They can't sign a check, so it means that you are accusing the staff of this. And so we're calling on you again. We haven't heard the public apology when you went out there in your frenzy. We didn't hear the apology yet to the health staff for what you've accused them for. Okay? And so now you could add the tourism staff to that one. So, guys, it's really time for a new type of politics. The type of politics where the people could actually believe what you say when it come out your mouth. And we're not saying things just for political gains or to score cheap political tricks or points. And so I'm saying we live in an environment now where we have youth who are trigger happy with guns. They hold nothing back to just press and shoot. And I'm saying, as politicians, we have to not be trigger happy with our words. They are both damaging. So I'm pleading with all of you to please come to the people, share the truth and honesty about what is going on. There's enough nonsense going on in this current administration. You don't have to make it up. Yeah? Just do your research, bring it to the people, and they will believe and understand. Not having to backtrack after you have made mistakes, being trigger happy and rushing the brush. Okay. Any questions on that part? No? All right. Moving right along. So, in the legislature at the last motion, the Chief Secretary came up with this, how many gangs we have and, all of those issues he laid out in the legislature as if it was the first time he was hearing about that. If he was really doing his job, he would have known about that from a lot longer. That is how we knew to write the letter to the Prime Minister, because we knew about the transnational nature of everything that was going on and the massive issues we had on our doorstep. However, he went in there, spoke about all of that. Murder and other crimes are up, yeah? But then, a week later, in reactive mode, as they normally are, to what the fisher folk was saying about them, that they didn't get paid and what they do with the money and all of that. And, in a very reckless way, he brought his secretaries to sit there and go through in detail every single service provider and how much money they got. I sat there listening and I cringed, because you clearly don't know how to add 2 plus 2. Because if on one hand you're telling us there is so much crime, so many gangs, and it's not just murders, burglary and whatever. And on the other hand, you have just put a target on the backs of those service providers. Come on. You had to understand, right? They have now become targets for extortion, theft, and even violent crime. How could you be so reckless in your thought and actions at this time? There's no sensitivity about the situation, no thought or caring for the people's names you're putting out there. And this could have been done differently, because all the fisher folk wanted to know is how you spend the money. And so what you could have done is you itemize the different categories. Whether it is catering, you could say, well, we spent X amount for catering. We would have paid 4 or 5 different providers or one provider, and this is the amount they got. These are the number of meals that were provided for. For the hotels, you could have said, well, there were 3 hotels we used. People were coming from elsewhere to assist us. We housed X amount of people at the hotel, and to the hotel community, we paid X amount. You didn't have to single out who for them to have targets on their backs. And this is important for us to understand. They act first and think later. It was just like the shark. Yeah? Put the bounty on the shark and then pull it back. Right? But the difference is, the bounty on the shark was incompetence. But this release of the data was dangerous. Okay? And this administration is dangerous to the people and the livelihood of this community of Tobago. Imagine they cry that they have no money, yet they throw millions into questionable projects with no clear return. They call for improved security, yet they expose citizens to the dangers through reckless disclosures. They claim to be fighting crime, yet they hand criminals a list of potential targets on a silver platter. It's clear that this administration considers itself the research tool for the criminal elements. And it is time that we understand that we cannot afford anymore this trial and error type of governance. It is time for us to look further than that, and the people of Tobago deserve more, and the idea is here. I'm prepared to give you more. So with that, I want to say thank you. Do you have any questions? Yes, the idea is taking part in the 2025 general elections for both East and West. Yes, we're in the final stages of our screening process, and so within a week or so, we will be able to announce the potential candidates who will be representing on behalf of the IDA. How many nominations we have received for Tobago West and Tobago East? We have 1 nomination for Tobago East and 2 for Tobago West. No, we're not sharing right now. Yes? Yeah. Okay, so thank you again for being here and listening to us. And we want to especially thank the media for coming out in their numbers today. It's so good to see you all out here. And we look forward to working with you through an exciting 2025 into 2026. Yes, one more question? We are quite confident because Tobago is looking for something new. We cannot continue to hit our head against the same wall and get something different. And for generations, we have done with Tobago, jump up with some central government entity, and when you get into office, nothing happens and the whole governance. It has happened throughout the years. And from the IDA's perspective, and we have been talking to the people, what we are putting forward is a true Tobago position, a true Tobago representative to Parliament. What that means is that when our candidates become the representatives and they go to Trinidad, whether we decide to choose one side to form the government or another side, it doesn't matter. Once the government is formed, our representatives will sit their butts down in Parliament and speak on behalf of the people of Tobago. They will not be dumb dogs in Jerusalem. And by extension, they will be an independent voice also speaking on behalf of the people in Trinidad, because let us not fool ourselves. A great part of Trinidad is made up of Tobagonians. Okay? So whether you're in Trinidad or in Tobago, they will be speaking on your behalf. They will not be taking a position to go and sit in the governance, even though we may have assisted some grouping by having to make a decision. They will not be sitting in any government office because they will not be muzzled by what they want to say or have to say in Parliament on behalf of the people of Tobago. And we have seen enough experiences of that throughout our years they join up with this national party, whether before or after, and then they go and take a seat and they suddenly become mum and begin to attack the people of Tobago. So our candidates will be true Tobago representatives. And I know that there are others suggesting that they are not aligned to a party, but I think actions speak louder than words. For the last 3 years, they have been giving away contracts to we know where, and therefore, action speaks louder than words. You can't jump up and align yourself and now come in to say you're non-aligned. The IDA, the Innovative Democratic Alliance, is the only true institution in Tobago that is non-aligned and would speak totally on behalf of the people of Tobago while our representatives are seated in Parliament. Thank you.